I caught up today with Kailash Satyarthi, Nobel Peace Prize winner, who met another Nobel Peace Prize winner, American President Barack Obama, earlier today. Satyarthi, of course, is delighted with the publicity and the camera glare and the attention he's getting after winning the Nobel Prize. But he says he's counting on Prime Minister Narendra Modi to deliver on the law that is currently in the Rajya Sabha which bans child labour. He says none of this attention means anything unless there's a firm law that takes action against those who force children into labour. Here is Hot Pursuit with the Nobel laureate, Kailash Satyarthi. It's not very often the two Nobel Peace Laureates come face to face. That happened this morning in New Delhi when Kailash Satyarthi came across US President Barack Obama. What do two Nobel Peace Laureates talk about, sir?
Well, I welcomed him as a fellow Nobel laureate, and I have called on his moral authority to make our world better for our children.
How can he do that?
I called for three-pronged friendship with him for three reasons. One is that how to make this world free of child labor, free of child exploitation, and free of child slavery. That's one. Secondly, for children, the world is getting more and more violent and unsafe. So how to work for ensuring the safety for all children in the world. And thirdly, that children and youth are getting more and more intolerant, and eventually in some places we have witnessed that they have become violent, and that is become incurable in some societies. So how to engage youth and children for a non-violent society, for a non-violent, more responsible, globalized world. So we have to work together on these issues. And
so what role do you see the American president play in all three of these?
In ending child slavery, he can put his weight behind my demand, which I am raising with all global leaders, including with Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, whom I met last fortnight, that there should be specific language in the post-millennium development goal, what we call the sustainable development goal. There is no mention of child slavery, though the number of child slaves in the world has not been decreasing for last 15 years, and my sense is that it is increasing. So there should be very specific, explicit mention of abolition of child slavery in the future development agenda.
Post your Nobel Prize, sir, your organization and you yourself have received a huge amount of publicity, recognition, and that's helped you build awareness. How much movement have you made when it comes to pushing the key bills, whether it's the bill on banning child labor officially in India, whether it is getting a ratification on the ILO conventions on child labor? Is it just about the cameras, the bells and the whistles, or is it impacting the condition of child slaves on the ground?
Well, I have seen unprecedented awareness and concern among the ordinary people. And that also goes to the politicians and lawmakers, as well as the sensible officers, including the police. And we have seen in many places they are conducting raids, they are rescuing children, they are helping
not pushed by your organization of their own accord.
They are doing on their own. We are not asking for everything. In some cases we are pushing, but in many cases they started doing on their own. That is very important. What happened in Hyderabad, for instance, a few days ago, when the police went to do something else and they found children, and it was their concern for children. I would say they are much more sensitized than ever before that they have rescued over 200 child slaves and trafficked children. So these things are happening everywhere. The media is taking more interest on these issues.
But do you see a date in your head when, in your view, India would be free of the scourge of child labor?
But let me come back to your original question, that unfortunately India has not ratified two of the most important ILO convention regarding the working children, child laborers, and children in slavery, children in prostitution, children in hazardous occupations or child soldiers, etc. One is ILO convention on minimum age, another one is on worst forms of child labor. India has not ratified any of them. The reason given is that India has to amend its law. It's also ironical that the law on child labor is absolutely obsolete. It's redundant law, because after that two new progressive laws have been enacted. One on right to education. So every child has to be in schools up to the age of 14. Whereas the present child labor law, which is there since 1986, allows child labor in so-called non-hazardous occupations. Only in hazardous occupations or hazardous industries child labor is prohibited legally. Otherwise, children can work in agriculture sector.
So do you see this law which is currently pending with the Rajya Sabha turn into reality maybe in the budget session, sir?
I am quite hopeful.
Has Prime Minister Modi made a commitment to you?
I met and discussed with him about it, and he knew about it. But we are still waiting that the law is tabled in the parliament.
So there's no commitment?
There's no commitment as yet, but I hope that he will take it up, because he is talking very high about Beti Bachao. But how the daughters would be saved if they are working as child slaves in domestic help, if they are working in other places, in mines and factories? So they have to be saved from there. Bachao means save the girls, and the girls must be saved from all sorts of exploitation, not only from our limited scope. Okay. They have to be saved from everywhere.